Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about putting the first ride on a horse in a snaffle bit. So first time Barcies ever been ridden in a snaffle bit. You guys have seen her in other videos, and she's got about 30 rides now. She's has a nice walk trot canter. She's not very spooky. She's working off my seat. She's pretty confident being ridden now. And all those things lead to me being ready to ride her in a snaffle bit. I'm going to ride her in a snaffle bit because I want to get a little more particular about where her flexion is right and left. The snaffle bit allows me to communicate a little more precisely than a Bosal. Everything's going great in a Bosal. If somebody wanted to keep her in a Bosal, no reason you couldn't do that, but we're going to go ahead and proceed with developing her into the bridle. And so today we're going to be introducing her to a snaffle bit. So I'm going to start with this on the ground, and I'm only going to ask her for things that she's already good at. So I'm not going to teach her anything new. One variable at a time is what you want to do. So we're going to put the snaffle on, going to ask her for a couple of yields on the ground, see where she's at with that, and then the same thing in the saddle. And I'm going to show you how to set it up so it goes smooth and easy, and have some fun. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is work with her one rein at a time. And to stow the other rein away, you can see I just brought it over her neck, and I'm just going to put a half hitch in it. So it's just a little twist in the leather, half hitch here. And that kind of keeps it from sliding around too much. So now I can work with her with one rein. Now she's wore the snaffle bit about maybe a half a dozen times so far. So I'm going to push her around on a circle, and you can see she's already looking in on that circle, so it makes my job pretty easy here. But I just kind of ask her to do some things on the ground that we've already been doing with the halter. So can I push her around? Can I pick up a feel and have her move? Can I ask her to put her head down with it and just follow a feel off that snaffle? The big secret here is when you put a feel on, you want to hold and not pull. Okay, so if you pull on them, it instantly brings up their defense systems and it makes them think about bracing back into it. So if you can establish the feel where you pick up contact and then you hold and you wait for them to step off and then the pressure goes away, that's a lot more palatable type of pressure for them to get used to. So another thing that I like to teach a horse before I finally step on them is can I stand on their side here, and I'm going to reach down, and as soon as I pick up a feel, I'm going to ask them to flex. So you can see she's good at that. As soon as I ask there, she gives to it. And so if your horse is passing these tests, if they're quiet in their mouth wearing the snaffle bit, they're ready for that first ride. If things were not going well on the ground, what I would be concerned about is teaching them to be fearful of the bit. Their mouth, they can be a little bit more emotionally sensitive, and it just maybe has slightly more intensity behind it than like a Bosal or something. And so if things aren't going well and you go to the snaffle bit, you run the risk of teaching them some things you don't want them to know, like getting emotional with it, flipping their tongue over the snaffle bit, opening their mouth up. You know, they can get pretty bothered and create some habits they don't want. So you don't want to rush this step. Take your time, set it up for success, and it'll go really smooth for you. So now that I'm mounted up, what I want to do with her is I want to be really agreeable. So right there, she kind of turned to the right. So I'm going to pick up my right rein and say, oh, let me help you go to the right. She's leaning on it there a little bit there, so I'll release. So one of the biggest difference that has an impact on whether or not your training day goes smoothly or is difficult or you're progressive or not is your feel and timing. So when I pick up on the rein, my primary focus isn't where she's going. I don't really care where she goes. We're in an indoor arena. We're just having a little ride here. Doesn't really matter right now. The one variable that I'm focused on is her feeling soft off this snaffle bit. So right here, she's leaning on it a little bit. I hold, wait for her to step over there. She got soft and I released. So it's that feel and timing that separates one horseman from another, okay? The better your feel and timing is of putting a feel on that rein and going, oh, there's a little spot right there, and just holding and waiting. And releasing when they give to it is going to make the difference of the ride going well or kind of getting a little bit ugly. Now, whenever you're asking a horse for something new, you have to expect some troubleshooting along the way, okay? Horse training doesn't go like this, okay? Horse training goes, It's up and down. There's good days and there's bad days. They're an attitude and emotions on 4 legs, and they have a mind of their own, and just like us, different days are different. So again, I'm just going to focus on agreeing with her where she wants to go. I'm going to hold, wait for her to step off, and release. Now, she also knows how to operate off my legs, and so I'm going to be very disciplined about isolating cues. So I'm only using one rein at a time. Now, because she's blowing out here, she got slightly bothered, which they all do, slightly bothered just by me going from the ground in the saddle, because she's never experienced the rider having a feel on the snaffle bit in her mouth. And so it's important for me to go slow with this, okay? Like yesterday, I rode her in a Bosal, and we were cantering, we worked the flag, we did a lot of harder things. Today, it's not about doing harder things, it's about getting her comfortable enough to accept the bit and understand what it means, and that's what this is about. So again, right now I'm being agreeable, I'm turning her in the direction I feel her leaning towards. That's the key. The other thing I like is, because of the previous training, she's not like all over the place here. She's kind of just goes onto a circle and is like, okay, we can just kind of get along here. Okay, so now I'm going to put a little wrench in things. Now I'm going to pick up this rein, and I'm going to go the opposite way that we were going. Hey, she handled that pretty well. That went very well. So this is a kind of a warm-up exercise that I actually do with most of the horses I ride, which is either agree with them and turn the direction they're trying to turn just a little bit more, or turn the opposite way of whatever way they're leaning, okay? Very good. So I really like how she's feeling with that. Let's go ahead and move it into a trot. And so we're just doing what I like to call riding and guiding. Again, so now that we changed gaits, now I'm going to go back to being agreeable to, if she's leaning to the right, we'll go right. If she leans left, we'll go left. Luckily, she's not taking over too much, but I am going to deliberately set up some of these yields here. Very good. Kind of come through my circle. There we go. Very good. So hopefully this looks like it's going pretty smooth to you guys. And the main thing I want to speak to is that we've prepared her for this, okay? We've gotten her ready by getting her listening and willing to be easily guidable wherever we want to go. She has reasonably good impulsion operating off the rider's seat. And she's not very spooky. And so if all those things are going well, it should go smooth no matter what tool you have on their mouth. And that is the exact opposite of the bigger bit theory, where it's like this horse is leaning on a smooth snaffle, so put a twisted wire snaffle in them, or get a little more bit, get a whatever it is. And that's not at all what this is about. It's about communication and psychology and having her understanding what it is we're asking for. And that's the principle that I work off of with everything I do. That if they understand what it is we're asking for, because of how we're setting it up, it's going to go smooth. And to me, it's very important, because there's only the first time. After that, you've already done something, and if you put in, if she was still a little snorty and she was spooking at things, and I put a feel on the rein, I might startle her and get her bothered, and she might associate that with the bit the whole rest of the time. And so I want to ride them with the snaffle at the point where things are going well, and I can kind of, for the most part, predict what they're going to do, how they're going to feel that day. So again, I'm being flexible, willing to let her kind of go where she wants. I'm going to sit here. She came back off of her own. I didn't use my reins to stop her. So all the principles and concepts that we should be using with our more experienced horses, we're going to apply to this first ride here. Don't use your reins to stop. Don't use your reins to turn. Use your reins if they don't stop, if they don't turn, which means I'm giving her some suggestions before that, okay? I'm using my seat, using my focus, and getting her to be easily guidable. So now, once I have that forward movement going pretty smooth, the next thing I'm going to do is start to pick up a rein and ask her to just give me a little bit of lateral flexion. Very good. Hold and wait. Hold and wait. Wait. There. Let it go as soon as she gives. It's all about them making that mental decision to just give to it. It's so many times we just draw on that rein a little bit too much and we end up pulling them around versus setting it up and waiting for them to give. And when you set it up and wait for them to give, that's when they can get soft. Okay? Then the next thing we'll take a look at quick is, can we control the hindquarters with the bit? So I tip her nose to the right, moving her off my leg there. Yep, that went smooth. Shift my weight back, see if I can control her shoulders. Hey, there we go. So making sure all these systems are now working. Again, I'm not teaching her these things right now. We've already taught these things with the Bosal on, and now we're just checking, can these things make sense to her with a snaffle bit? Now, the one thing I'm not going to ask her for today is vertical flexion or soft feel. I've been working on that with the Bosal a little bit, but that's not important at all today, and that would be a good way to get her kind of bothered with it. See, now here, she's thinking about the bit there. So right there, she was just moving her hind end and not her front end, and I think her attention went to the bit. And so I was just patient and waited there. You know, if I had a Bosal on her, I might have got a little bit more firm about, nope, I'm asking you to move your shoulder. But I think what happens is the snaffle bit or any bit can be a bit of an attention stealer, okay? It gets easy for a horse to get a little hyper-focused on what's in their mouth instead of connecting to the move or the yield that you're asking for. And so when you're riding with a bit, to me, you got to have a lot of reverence for the idea that horses can get, their attention can get taken and put onto the bit. And so we're just going to be a little more patient, wait for her to find those things, and make sure she's connecting to our idea. Very good. So I like how this is feeling. Now, we've already established that she understands how to stop off my feet. So as much as we've talked about, I guess, things that I would do when you're putting a first ride on a horse with a snaffle, let me talk about what I wouldn't do. What I wouldn't do is ask for soft feel and draw them. She could do it and she could figure it out, but it would be a little bit messier than I really want it to be. I'm going to give her maybe 4 or 5 rides to get accustomed to the snaffle bit before I ask for that, okay? Again, not that I couldn't do it. It's just that I think you're going to end up putting in a little bit of mouthiness and opening their mouth, and just it's a little bit too much pressure for a horse that's just being introduced to it, okay? The next thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't pull back on 2 reins to stop them. Again, this is something I wouldn't do anyways. But you can see she's stopping off my seat anyways. And so I don't need to do that. But now the last thing I would do is I would pick up on both reins and see if I can get her to take a step backwards off that. Now she can back up pretty well with the Bosal on, but I'm going to start off going slow here and just kind of giving her some time to get used to that bit. And you can see she's actually giving me a little bit of vertical flexion anyways, which is great. Hold. Wait for her to step off of it. There, I kind of felt like she was putting her head down to kind of evade it. Good. Very nice. So that's what I would do to kind of introduce a horse to a snaffle bit. We're going to ride around some more, but we're going to leave you guys right here. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you're enjoying them. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.